Okay, we'll start with this. The question was asked, where is Big Al Haymon? Is boxing's former king still in the business, or is he out? With Top Rank Boxing's ESPN deal expired, network executives interested in combat sports programming have some real questions, and so do we. 2 years ago, Al Haymon and Stephan Espinoza were busy promoting three $20 million gates for Showtime Sports in Las Vegas. Mr. Espinoza's barbs towards UFC president Dana White drove Zuffa's big man nuts. Nobody celebrated the end of Showtime Boxing more than Dana. 2 years later, both men find themselves in an intriguing position. We're not the only ones interested in this development. Major sports media executives are paying close attention. Dana White, brand ambassador, finds himself along for the ride with Nick Khan and Turki El-Sheikh under the Zuffa boxing banner. Canelo vs. Crawford is on Netflix, although we don't know how much Netflix is paying for the rights to broadcast the fight worldwide. Meanwhile, Stephan Espinoza finds himself in a curious position with Al Haymon's PBC and that banner. Recent PBC fights have been streaming on Amazon Prime. Charitably speaking, let's say the jury is still out on how that venture is working out. The quality of fights and production values have not been at previous Haymon-level standards. Well, they can't be. They don't have as much money to play as they used to when they were at Fox and when they were with Showtime. Despite PBC's recent turmoil, the promotion still has strong brand value, and that's something to pay attention to as you constantly read article after article gossiping about TKO media rights for boxing, UFC, and wrestling programming. One of the intriguing players in 2025? ESPN. Who knew? ESPN cleared the decks with its exit from Top Rank Boxing. They clearly want a piece of the upcoming UFC media rights package. It's our educated opinion that if Nick Khan was in charge of negotiating UFC media rights, he likely would have gotten some sort of deal done. Instead, Mark Cost Savings Shapiro is in charge, and he thinks he has the leverage. Meanwhile, ESPN wanted more than just UFC programming. They want more fight content. The question is, how much do they have to pay, and how many shows can they get in return? There are two specific time tracks to pay attention to. First, ESPN wants immediate inventory to fill out programming schedules. However, various industry sources on the background are claiming that, behind the scenes, Disney isn't prepared to open up the checkbook to pay for time slots immediately. If you can bring sponsors to the table or pay for programming, ESPN can open up time slots real fast for you. Second, ESPN wants to build a real fight portfolio for the 2026 campaign. A key industry source on background has told the MMA Draw that Disney would like to have a piece of the action for boxing, UFC, and some wrestling-related content. Despite a seemingly hard cap on weekly hardcore customer numbers, wrestling programming drives traffic and action to big media platforms. What does any of this have to do with Al Haymon? One of the promotional players ESPN executives are very curious about is the PBC. A PBC-ESPN marriage makes sense on a lot of levels, but there is a catch. There are three big mysteries right now about PBC that have media executives scratching their heads as to what they would be getting into if they signed an extensive deal with PBC for club shows and mid to major fights. So the PBC stable is not actually as deep as the top-ranked stable. And the PBC doesn't have the international relationships with other fighters in other regions of the world, other promoters, that Top Rank has. PBC doesn't have that. How you're able to watch Christian Mobili's fights in Canada, here in the United States, Naoya Inoue's fights in Japan, as well as Junto Nakatani's and some others. PBC doesn't have an arrangement like that. So if the idea here is to swap out Top Rank with PBC, I would say that PBC is not an adequate substitute. What about Al Haymon? It would seem that for years, Al Haymon made himself a difficult man to contact, a difficult man to get to, even at the height of the PBC's popularity. He's even harder to reach now. Industry rumors going back to the fall of 2023 suggested that Al Haymon was away, missing in action due to either health issues of his own or health issues with a family member, but he was gone for a while. He pops back up a couple of months into 2024, so that people are still wondering where he is in 2025. Al Haymon has deliberately made himself a difficult man to reach. And you can make of that what you will. He's always been a recluse. Even when the PBC was doing well. More so now that they're not. If we are to address this rumor that maybe something could happen between them and ESPN, well, ESPN would provide them with more stability than what we've been seeing on Amazon Prime. Amazon is but a hub, a place for them to do their fights. They're not putting up any real money. And thus, the PBC has struggled to get back on their feet after Showtime's departure from the sport. Personally, I think it would be a bad idea for ESPN to swap out Top Rank for PBC when PBC don't have the bodies, they don't have the depth of stable, and very few flagship fighters are left over there. What are we talking about? 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao? Quasi-retired Keith Thurman fights? Quasi-retired Gary Russell? Because this is what you would be getting for your money. This is what their stable looks like. Mario Barrios? My opinion, the PBC is not an adequate substitute for the void that Top Rank would leave behind.
Tell them niggas that they know what to do, they know who to call. And I'm by the phone. What's up? All of them. Holla at me.
Would seem that Gervonta Davis is leaving the phone lines open for any interested parties that might be interested in facing him, saying that they know who to call. I'm going to assume he's talking about Al Haymon. The guy nobody knows where he is? That guy? Given the ambiguity of this video and the future of Gervonta Davis, the inference you can make is that if he's leaving the phone lines open for interested parties to fight him, is because he's not fighting Lamont Roach. It's because that rematch isn't going to happen. You should have heard something by now. Even if it's not happening on the 16th of this month, and I said that it wouldn't, we still should have heard something. What about September, October, November? We still should have heard something. And Lamont Roach himself has been left in limbo, just as bewildered as the rest of us, unable to move on because the story is Gervonta's supposed to have a rematch clause, and that's what set the precedent for all of this. Is Lamont at liberty to move on? Because if he can, then he should. He shouldn't allow them to waste his time like this. Would Gervonta Davis's fans let him live it down if he decided not to run it back with Lamont Roach, if he decided to go in another direction? Two-Tone the Superstar would. Two-Tone the Superstar said, no cap, nobody, and I mean nobody, cares about a Lamont Roach rematch. I need Gervonta to deal with his legal troubles and then move on to some big fights, seemingly giving him a pass to not face Lamont Roach for a second time before this year is out, even though the Lamont Roach rematch would be a big fight. The second one would be bigger than the first because of the controversy in the first, because a lot of people think Lamont Roach should have won. It's the Wilder versus Fury situation all over again. The second fight ended up being bigger than the first because of the controversy from the first. The first fight sold approximately 325,000 pay-per-views. The second sold more than double at 800,000. And that could be the case with this. That could be the case with a Lamont Roach rematch where the second fight will be bigger than the first. So why would Gervonta Davis decide to forego it? Doesn't he want his lick back? Doesn't he want to right this wrong and finish the job?
Maybe Lamont Roach has him too spooked.
Maybe Gervonta doesn't know if he can figure this guy out, and he wants to move on to something else and someone else. But the damage that all of this has done to his image, to his reputation, still remains, because if Lamont Roach is allowed to move on, and he goes in there and he fights somebody else, and he loses.
Say he loses to Shakur Stevenson at 135, or he loses to Gary Antoine Russell at 140. Say that anybody else goes in there with that same Lamont Roach, and they beat him easy, where Gervonta could not.
Still doing damage to Gervonta Davis's image, to Gervonta Davis's reputation. He's seeming less and less like a tank.
More like a moped.
A Vespa. And the walls are closing in, because you don't just get to bail on Lamont Roach and fight some ham and egg guy. You bail on that guy, it's got to be for somebody better, something bigger.
Especially since Gervonta Davis fights exclusively on pay-per-view, you need a fight that you can sell, a dance partner who can help you.
So who are we talking about? Shakur Stevenson? After struggling with Lamont Roach, Gervonta Davis is going to find the courage to fight a Shakur Stevenson?
I doubt it.
I don't actually know what he's going to do, and I don't care either, but this is the news. It's not looking good for that Lamont Roach rematch.
I really want that Rollies rematch, bro. I can't let that, be what it is. Nah, I want to get that back. He has the title, so right now he got elevated. So, why not go for the world championship and get my look back, and be at my best. I just want to fight him when I'm at my best. That's it. That's all I care about. That's it. I want somebody to beat me when I'm at my absolute best, and if you do, great.
So the difference between this rematch and the one that we just talked about is there's no audience for this rematch. Who out there actually wants to see Garcia versus Romero 2? It didn't end controversially.
Lost fair and square. He lost.
Ryan didn't do anything, and if they tried to do it again in the fall, they would likely try to bill it as a pay-per-view. Do you want to pay $80 to see that?
Want to see that shit again? The first fight was not entertaining. If it were, I could see, but
Ryan didn't do anything, and Rolly didn't jump on him. He didn't go in for the kill. He didn't try hard enough to stop him, because Ryan wasn't doing much.
hit the gas.
Ryan says that he wasn't 100% in the fight. The same Ryan Garcia who said he didn't bother to train, even though he was paid $20 million or just something in that neighborhood to fight Rolly. You pay this guy all this money, and he doesn't even bother to train?
Yeah, I don't think it's likely that Turkey invites him back.
Which means Golden Boy Promotions and the PBC, they would have to try to do this on their own and bill it as a pay-per-view of his $20 million demand.
The little video he uploaded where he says to Oscar De La Hoya, unless he's got $20 million for him, don't bother to call.
Ryan said, it's crazy how I have to write something for this, but obviously I was trolling on the stream. Nobody talked to Oscar De La Hoya and said, I need $20 million for a fight. Jeez, you can see he wasn't on the phone. Even Oscar fell for it, and he knows I haven't talked to him. I can tell people still don't know how streaming clippers work and the captions and clips they make. But oh well, old heads gotta learn sooner than later.
Oh, so he was trolling. That's what he was doing. He's trolling, guys.
Who was he trolling?
His own boxing career, I'd say. Because he's not trolling me, not trolling Oscar. He's not trolling anybody but himself in his own boxing career that is now stagnant.
I wonder, does Ryan have any other talents? Can he play a different sport? Does he know how to play an instrument? The piano, maybe? The flute? Because boxing ain't it. Comes to his boxing, he seems to have hit a wall, gone about as far as he can go. I mean, if you can't make it past the Rolly Romero, if you have to make excuses for losing to that guy,
Pack it up.
it's not looking like that second fight is going to go down anyway. He's got one more fight left on his existing Golden Boy Promotions deal, and he goes into free agency after that.
One more fight.
The rest of the year can come and go without Ryan Garcia boxing again, and I wouldn't bat an eyelash. I wouldn't care. I don't care about this kid's career because he doesn't care about his career. So why should I?
Turkey complaining on your show about tune-up fights, but Virgil about to fight 36-year-old Keith Thurman. You know, there's rumors all over Twitter and the internet about that. The same Keith Thurman that has only fought 3 times in 6 years. Thurman, the guy who got injured during training camp for Tim Tszyu and was replaced by Sebastian Fundora. Thurman, who has only had 1 fight at 154 with someone who wasn't even ranked, who was also knocked out by Liam Paro, right? Thurman fighting for a new hair transplant. He done tore his hairline till death do us apart.
Well, it is true that Turkey was on a Boxing Voice saying that he's not here to finance tune-up fights. Who says that he's financing this one? The way I saw the story, the PBC and Golden Boy Promotions are making this fight amongst themselves, if the rumor holds true.
If Keith Thurman actually goes through with it, I struggle thinking that he will.
The fight in and of itself, I don't mind. I don't mind it because, one, Virgil's had a tough run of fights. You know, he fought Sergey Boachuk and he fought Israel Madrimov. Some tough customers. So you can interpret Keith Thurman as a high-profile layup.
That's one.
2, Keith Thurman already fought earlier this year. He had a tune-up fight of his own against Brock Jarvis. So it's not like he hasn't fought in the last 12 months. It's not like he's completely new to the weight. They did fight at 154. He, like Virgil Ortiz, is a welterweight that moved up to junior middle. The fight in and of itself, I don't mind. The only aspect of this fight that I would mind is if they bill it as a pay-per-view. That I would mind. If you're telling me that I need to pay $60 to $80 to see these two guys fight, that I have a problem with.
That I do mind.
Because, bear in mind, Canelo versus Crawford isn't a pay-per-view, and that is a bigger and better fight than this one. If I don't gotta pay $80 to see that, why the hell would I turn around and pay $80 to see this? Remember, Benavidez versus Yard, that card in November, that is stacked. That's not a pay-per-view either.
So why would I pay $80 to see this? That's the problem that I have with this potential matchup. You figure that for Keith Thurman to fight somebody as dangerous as Virgil, it's going to take a lot of money. You got to offer him a lot of money. And the only way to get it to him is to bill it as a pay-per-view.
He wouldn't take on a fight like this on the cheap. He wouldn't take it on just on a whim. If they're serious about doing it, they're likely thinking about doing it as a pay-per-view, and that I do have a problem with. But the fight in and of itself, I don't mind.
I don't think it's a bad fight. A bad fight for Virgil. Virgil's had 2 tough opponents back-to-back. He could do with an easy one.
Keith Thurman only has 1 professional loss, and that was years ago to Manny Pacquiao. I feel like Virgil would be doing us all a favor if he fought this guy and shut him up.
Retire him.
And I think that he would. I think that Keith Thurman would try to buy himself some time using the ring and moving around. That's what he likes to do. Move around, set traps, and walk the other guy into punches. But the constant pressure from Virgil Ortiz, Virgil bearing down on him, it's only a matter of time before Virgil stops him.
Oh yeah, I think Virgil would knock him out.
That caller likened this fight to being a tune-up fight, and I agree. I do think that would be a tune-up fight for Virgil. A keep busy fight, a high-profile one, with a former champion and a familiar name. And you know Keith.
Keith has the gift of gab, so he will help to sell it. I don't think it's a bad fight.
It's not bad, it's just that if they tried to bill it as a pay-per-view, it would be overpriced. Nobody should have to pay extra to see Keith Thurman. That just doesn't make sense.
Not in 2025.
Simultaneously, that's the only way I could see this fight happening, is if they build it as a pay-per-view.
See what happens.